Assalamu alaikum. Let's cook. People, this story took place in the year 2000, and this is a very wild, sick, violent story. We have two black men running for political office in DeKalb County, Georgia. They're both actually running for sheriff. And one of these men took this thing too far, just being a violent American that he was taught to be. He killed his opponent after he lost the election. So we have two black men, one by the name of Sidney Dorsey. Now, Sidney Dorsey is DeKalb County, Georgia's first black sheriff. He was elected in the year 1996. Okay? He has a wife named Sherry Dorsey. She's also into politics. So he's a big deal, you know. He was also involved in solving the Atlanta child murders, this guy, Sidney Dorsey. He's a big deal out there, okay? He's the sheriff, first black sheriff. Now we have a black man by the name of Derwin Brown. Derwin Brown is a police captain, okay? He decides that he wants to run for sheriff. He thinks he could challenge Sidney Dorsey. He does that, and he defeats Sidney Dorsey. Derwin Brown. So what happened was these two, they were going head to head, you know, in their election. They have a runoff. People are wondering who's going to win. Everybody's running out voting. Sidney Dorsey, he held this position for, you know, his time. He's DeKalb County's first black sheriff, so he's a big deal. You have the young gunner right here, Derwin Brown, coming for that spot, doing it the right way. They have a runoff. In the election runoff, Derwin Brown wins. The first black sheriff in the county, Sidney Dorsey, he loses to the younger Derwin Brown. Now, Sidney Dorsey is heated. He's pissed off, extremely mad. He's not ready to let this thing go easy. But he has a clever plan now. He says, I'm going to just kill him. So what Sidney Dorsey did is he ordered a hit on Derwin Brown after losing to him. So Sidney Dorsey, he gets a former deputy by the name of Patrick Cuffey to do this hit. Then Patrick Cuffey gets his hit team. He goes and gets somebody by the name of Melvin Walker, David Ramsey, and Paul Skyers. Now these guys right here are going to carry out this hit. They're doing this hit because they were promised some things. They were promised a job, a promotion, and in their minds, if they do this hit, Sidney Dorsey would just take over as sheriff again by default, and they'll get everything that they were promised to get, okay? Now these guys right here, these guys are thugs. I mean, Patrick Cuffey, yeah, he may be a sheriff and all that, a deputy, but he's an enforcer, people. He's an enforcer. He's in the streets. Sheriff Sidney Dorsey knows Patrick Cuffey because Patrick Cuffey is his enforcer, okay? Patrick Cuffey worked for his private security firm. He worked for Sidney Dorsey's private security firm. He has another business, okay? And this guy is his enforcer. So what he did was, when he became sheriff, he went and got Patrick Cuffey and gave him a job in internal affairs. So just think about it. You got a dude that's just a security enforcer for your security firm. You become sheriff and you give this dude, he's a street guy. You give him a job in internal affairs. And he was the second highest paid employee in the department. Patrick Cuffey, this guy. So Patrick Cuffey, he has the hit team, and they're going to carry out this hit on December 15th, 2000. 3 days before Derwin Brown was set to be sworn in as the new sheriff. So what Patrick Cuffey and his team did was they laid on Derwin Brown outside his house in Decatur, Georgia, laid in the bushes, laid in the driveway, waited for an opportunity. Then they ambushed Derwin Brown, shot him 12 times with a Tech 9 in the driveway, lit him up. Okay, lit him up, did the job, got up out of there. So Patrick Cuffey, he goes to tell Sidney Dorsey it's done. Sidney Dorsey is happy. Got rid of that problem right there. They say that he even played I shot the sheriff after they did that, just being arrogant. Now, why did Sidney Dorsey want to do this to the new sheriff, Derwin Brown? Why did he really want to do this? Why was he so upset that he lost? Sidney Dorsey was actually probably fighting for his life, okay? Because they knew once Derwin Brown won, they feared that he would investigate all the corruption and misconduct that was connected to the time that Sidney Dorsey was the sheriff. You know? So they felt like, Sidney Dorsey felt like, man, when this dude get in office, he's no nonsense. He's going to dig in this, and this. He's going to see all the garbage I've been doing. So we figured, let me go ahead and get this guy out of here. Yeah, he's mad about losing, but he's also knowing that he's about to be exposed when the young gunner, Derwin Brown, gets in there. He's going to straighten things up and get to the bottom of everything because they already knew it was a bunch of corruption going on. Now, Sidney Dorsey was an immediate suspect for these investigators, the people who are looking to this, you know, given the political motive and everything. So this guy, Sidney Dorsey, they did figure he was a suspect. You know, the investigators are kind of on him. They're watching. Sidney Dorsey is feeling good. He's like, okay, well, you know, I'm good. You know, he had an alibi and everything. He figured that the day of this hit, him and his wife would be at a public function in Atlanta. So he figured, you know, I'm clear. You know what I'm saying? They can't say I was there. There's no physical evidence tying me to that. That's what he's thinking in his head. You know, I'm going to be the sheriff again. Now, while Sidney Dorsey is feeling good, like he got it done, he's feeling himself, the investigators are still looking into this. And what they did was they made an entire list of people that Derwin Brown would have fired had he become the newly elected sheriff. They come up with this list. And before Derwin Brown took office, he had already drawn up termination letters for 36 sheriff office employees as part of his promised corruption cleanup. So he had already, you know, Derwin Brown was going to come in and clean house all this corruption and things that they're doing. So what they did was they looked at that list, the investigators, and said who was on this list and who would have a grudge against him. That's what they did. And one name stood out to them, and that was Patrick Cuffey. Remember, Patrick Cuffey, Sidney Dorsey's enforcer, the one who worked for his security business, who came into the sheriff's office. He gave him a job in internal affairs, no experience, and then has the second highest salary in the department. That's his man, his enforcer. Now, this dude, Patrick Cuffey, he was also caught up in some suspicious overtime stuff. So he was flagged for that. He was caught up in that. Derwin Brown was definitely going to fire him when he got in, especially after discovering that he had all this fraudulent overtime. But this guy, Patrick Cuffey, he actually had an alibi too on the day of this hit. He said that he was with 3 friends that night, and they all backed this story up. You know, even though they were looking at Patrick Cuffey has an alibi. So they thought that they were skating. Now here's when the break came. Here's what happened. Again, Patrick Cuffey, he may work for the sheriff's department, but he's in the streets. He's a thug. Okay? He's always going to be in something illegal and corrupt. He was caught up in another drug investigation. Okay? Some kind of big drug deal, drug investigation. Boom, the DEA is all involved. They come in, bam, they got Patrick Cuffey. So Patrick Cuffey, he's like, okay. He starts talking to the DEA. I know something. That's when he flipped. And he told them everything to get himself out of this drug situation that he's in. Okay? So yes, he snitched. This picture right here tells it all. That's what he did. Look at him. That's him in court. To get himself out of this situation, he told him everything. Sidney Dorsey did this, and that. He masterminded this. He told it all. He said that Sidney Dorsey called him to his house one day after he lost that election, and he handed him a note. And the note said, kill Derwin Brown. He didn't tell him. He handed him a note. After he gave him the note, he said Sidney Dorsey took the paper and ate it, stuck it in his mouth, chewed it up, and ate it. Patrick Cuffey understood what it meant. So Patrick Cuffey said, I won't do it alone. So that's when he went and recruited his hit team, Melvin Walker, David Ramsey, and Paul Skyers. Patrick Cuffey told him everything. He said that my mission was to follow through with what Mr. Dorsey asked, and that was to kill Derwin Brown. There were also other people that spoke up and said what they had to say about Sidney Dorsey. There's a bondswoman by the name of Shirley McMichael. She was having an affair with Sidney Dorsey. Yeah, he's married, but she was having an affair with him. She testified that after he lost, Sidney Dorsey told her that Derwin Brown would never assume office. He told her that a special election will be called and he'd win it back and he'll be back in office. And then she said he made a hand gesture like a gun to the temple. If you look at Sidney Dorsey's pictures, man, look, you see he looked like a demon, yo. Look at this guy's face, man. He looks like he's up to no good, like one of them, he one of them ones, you know. The Cobb County Chief Deputy by the name of Clarence Mosley also testified that Sidney Dorsey said something just like this to him, just like what he told his jump off lady he was having an affair with, told him, like, listen, he'll never take office. And he also testified that in court, his chief deputy by the name of Clarence Mosley. Another one of the men who was in on his hit named Paul Skyers, he also cooperated. He gave investigators information that they could use as well. Paul Skyers. So that led the task force to arrest the other guys, Melvin Walker and David Ramsey, and also Sidney Dorsey. So although all these guys are involved, Melvin Walker and David Ramsey and Sidney Dorsey are going down. So these guys are arrested. Sidney Dorsey is convicted on July 10th, 2002. Sidney Dorsey got life in prison for murder, plus 23 additional years for racketeering and violation of oath of office. He just passed away, people, this year in March. He never was released, okay? And he did admit, yes, I did this. I got caught up. I did something evil. I did something stupid. So yes, Sidney Dorsey did admit from prison that he did all of this. The other one, Melvin Walker, he was initially acquitted at the state trial because the jury believed that he might have been a scapegoat, but later he was convicted in federal court in 2005 on conspiracy to commit interstate murder for hire. Melvin Walker was sentenced to life without parole. David Ramsey, same as Walker, he was acquitted on the state level, okay? But the feds came in and got him. They hit him with life without parole. Patrick Cuffey, the hitman, Sidney Dorsey's main man, his enforcer, the one who orchestrated the whole hit, the one who flipped, he only got 1 year in prison. 1 year, that's it. Paul Skyers, the other one who was with it, he got 0 time in prison. He also agreed to cooperate, said what he had to say, and he's actually the one that went and got the Tech 9, okay, with the silencer. They wanted to make sure that they used the Tech 9 with the silencer as opposed to another weapon. This was a request from Sidney Dorsey. So we have Patrick Cuffey, the one who did the whole hit, orchestrated it, got the hit team, 1 year. Paul Skyers, immunity. The other two, because they sat there, I guess they figured they talked before us, they both got life in prison. Federal, Sidney Dorsey got life in prison with the state. And again, Sidney Dorsey did confess that he did all of this. He admitted that he wrote the note. I did all that. He said, yes, I was in a bad mental state. I was out of my mind. He said, I also had sexual harassment allegations going on. I had marital troubles that I was dealing with. I was just going nuts. And yes, this is what I did. And he died at 86, people, just a few months ago, of natural causes at Augusta State Medical Prison. People, this is a really messed up story to me, man. And you know why. I mean, like, to do something like this, that's straight grimy. It is police stuff. The police departments kill people all the time. All police departments, especially the major ones, they have hitmen and things like that. But this is just down in Georgia, you know. But this right here is wild because dude only got a year, man. Like, dude, you got nothing. But you know what? There's no honor amongst thieves, man. It is what it is. I mean, that's the way it goes down. I don't think it's right, but that's how they do it. Now, here's another thing, people. You notice that I said that this guy, Sheriff Sidney Dorsey, was the first black sheriff in his county in Georgia. And he was also involved in the Atlanta child murders. I wish they would have grilled him a little more on that before he passed away. Okay? Because he may have even been a sock puppet for them white folks in that situation, which could be why he was even in position in the first place. I don't know. Because there are many people, even white people, that don't believe that the man who they have for this Atlanta child murders actually did this. They're saying that these are white groups that did this to these children. And this black man was framed for this. It would have been good if they would have got Sidney Dorsey to speak more about that. Because I wonder now, being that he was in on that, he is the first black. Down there, usually when these people give a black person the first whatever, it's usually because they're a weakling. They're willing to do some things that other people wouldn't do. They're willing to go ahead and sacrifice some things. Not saying all the time, but it's always something in it for the white people, even if it's not sinister. You know what I mean? I'm not saying it's always got to be, oh, he did this. But this guy, Sidney Dorsey, he might have even did some things in the past that he just not talking about, covering for them white folks. Who knows? You know what I mean? Who knows? But people, get in the comments, let me know what you know about this story. If you live in this area, if you're related to anybody in this story. Also, link in the description for my masterpiece, The N-Word Is No Secret in the Service, and link to the email list. Go ahead and get on that in case YouTube start doing their thing. Easy.